Today is the beginning of National Vocations Week. Now, most of us think vocation means, oh, I'm going to be a priest or a religious. No, we all have a vocation. Some are called to be priests, some are called to be the parents of priests. For example, I'm really glad my parents were called to marriage because then I could be here. And so on this day of vocations, we must pray for those young people in the world to find out whether they're called to be priests or religious, or whether they're called to be the parents of a priest or religious, so they may hear God's will in their lives and know true joy.
Coming up on this edition of Reel to Reel. Several young men took part in a vocations retreat. I'm Carolee McGrath. I'll have the story coming up.
I'm Steve Kiltonic in Waterbury, Connecticut. Well, I'll have the story of Father Thomas Conway, who was the last chaplain to die in World War II.
And Kathy Harrington sits down with Father Valentine Nwora as he shares the colorful and cultural joys of his native parish in Nigeria. These stories are coming your way next on Reel to Reel. Hello and welcome to Reel to Reel. This coming Monday kicks off National Vocations Awareness Week, a week celebrated in the Catholic Church to promote vocations to the priesthood, consecrated life, and to the diaconate. Back in midsummer, the Vocations Office for the Diocese of Springfield held a retreat for young men to learn more about the priesthood. The name given for this day was Quo Vadis. Carolee McGrath tells us now what that means and why this day could serve as an important first step for some future priest.
On a hot summer day, they set out, and with Zelly in tow, they hiked up a steep mountain, climbing closer to God. 16 high school-aged young men met at Holy Family Parish in South Deerfield for the Quo Vadis Vocations Retreat. The day, which included that 700-foot climb up Mount Sugarloaf, was sponsored by the Office of Vocations to help young men learn more about the priesthood. Quo Vadis is the Latin phrase which means, where are you going?
The Quo Vadis Day is just a fun day for guys to get away, but to be with each other, not just in the context of fun, but also of faith, because they go hand in hand.
Bishop Byrne dispelled 5 myths about the priesthood, including one that priests are only interested in religion.
Oh, priests are just interested in religion. That's what you call a boring priest. You want a priest that knows all different kinds of things. If you're a priest, you should have all different kinds of interests.
Bishop Byrne directs the Vocations Office, assisted by Father Jonathan Reardon, the Director of Recruitment and pastor of Holy Family Parish in South Deerfield, and Father David Darcy, Director of Seminarians and pastor of St. Francis of Assisi Parish in Belchertown. In addition to Bishop Byrne, other priests gave witness talks, including Father Stanislas Achu, the parochial vicar at Holy Name Parish. Father Achu, who is a great musician and loves sports, was ordained a little more than a year ago during the pandemic.
It's good to come to things like this to get to know that a priest is also an ordinary guy out there. Like you saw me playing the piano today. A priest learns to play the piano, a priest learns to sing, a priest still plays his soccer games, basketball, a priest still hangs out with his friends, goes to the movies. I love going to the movies also. So it's good that they come to things like this to get to know that.
The day also included games, lunch, Eucharistic adoration, and Mass. In addition to this retreat, the Vocations Office has held several holy hours and has many more scheduled in the coming months, inviting families and really people of all ages to pray for vocations and to pray for priests. Bishop Byrne is credited with fostering the vocations of 14 young men who became priests and 5 young women who became professed religious while he was the chaplain at the Catholic Student Center at the University of Maryland at College Park. Currently, there is 1 seminarian for the Diocese of Springfield. But Father Reardon says God hasn't stopped calling people, and retreats and prayer are the way to foster vocations.
Retreat means to fall back. It's a way for these kids to fall back out of the ordinary events of their everyday lives, sports, school, friends, summer stuff, just to take the time to step away and say, okay, what does the Lord want for my life? You don't have to figure it out like today, but God speaks to us when we're quiet. And so we have to distance ourselves sometimes from the noise of our lives.
18 young men recently attended the St. Andrew dinner sponsored by the Vocations Office. For more information about upcoming events and resources, go to myvocation.com. Reporting for Reel to Reel, I'm Carolee McGrath.
And joining me now to talk more about the Vocations Retreat is Director of Vocations Recruitment for the Diocese of Springfield, Father Jonathan Reardon. Welcome, Father.
Thanks, Sharon. Good to be here.
Great. It's great to have you.
Thank you.
So, Father, the Quo Vadis Retreat seemed like a great success and a good time for all of the guys who attended. Tell me, why is this important for young people? How can it help to promote vocations?
So good question. So Quo Vadis is actually a very popular retreat, kind of spread out all through the country. Many dioceses do retreats called Quo Vadis, which means, where are you going? And it's an opportunity for especially young high school guys to start thinking about what's their place in the world. Where am I going? What does the Lord want from me? And so it's an opportunity for them, just like any retreat, to step away from the busyness of life, of sports, of school, and to get to know priests, to hear great talks about the priesthood, to have some fellowship with other young men who are also thinking about what's my place in life. So where are you going is the theme of that retreat, and it allows us to sort of showcase what the priesthood is about for our young people. And it's a great tool that recruits young men for priesthood and allowing them to think more deeply about, the direction of my life and what does the Lord want from me.
Mm-hmm. And another event you had also, the bishop hosted a St. Andrew dinner. How did that go?
It was awesome, actually. Again, we had 18 young men come to dinner with Bishop, and another great way to showcase the joy of the priesthood. And in fact, the St. Andrew dinner has an origins from kind of the Eastern Church, where St. Andrew is referred to as the first called, the first who was shown who the Messiah is by St. John the Baptist. And then Andrew goes and shows Peter. So it's a way for us to show young people who Christ is in the priesthood. What do priests do? To answer questions, to have a fellowship with the bishop. And again, it's a way for us to share our joy of our life and our vocation. And again, we had 18 young men who attended this dinner last Saturday, and we had 17 high school students attend our Quo Vadis retreat in July. And so what it says to us as a diocese is that vocations are out there. God still calls. Just because we have a lack of vocations at the moment doesn't mean that there aren't young men out there who are thinking about priesthood. So it's a way for the whole diocese and the whole church to kind of come together and promote vocations, even in these little events.
All right. Well, Father Jonathan Reardon, Director of Vocations Recruitment for the Diocese of Springfield, thank you so much for being with us, and best of luck to you.
Thank you very much, Sharon. Please pray for vocations.
We will.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'm Dan Dumas with your Reel to Reel News Briefs. The end of October closed out the annual 40 Days for Life campaign, and we have some encouraging news. Organizers report they believe one baby was saved after a woman considering an abortion spoke with those praying in front of the clinic in downtown Springfield. They referred her to a local agency for assistance. Carolee McGrath has the story.
Almighty Jesus, forgive us our sins.
Bishop Byrne has been an active participant in the 40 Days for Life campaign. It's a peaceful, prayerful witness which relies on volunteers to pray outside of Planned Parenthood in Springfield. Since the Diocese of Springfield joined the national campaign, organizers say more than 24 women have kept their babies locally. Nationally, more than 19,000 babies have been saved from abortion as a result of prayer and public witness. 16 churches and the Knights on Bikes and several people have volunteered to fill in the gaps downtown. The campaign runs every fall to coincide with Respect Life Month and again during Lent. To find out more about local pro-life activities and resources in the area, visit diospringfield.org. For Reel to Reel, I'm Carolee McGrath.
This coming week marks Vocations Awareness Week. Vocations are an important issue facing the church, and it is one in which we all have a role to play. Earlier this year, St. Mary's Parish in Westfield hosted a vocation panel. Kathy Harrington tells us more.
We're here because we promote the vocations.
This evening, dedicated to increasing vocations, was held at St. Mary Parish in Westfield and organized by Latino Ministries and the Augustinians of the Assumption in Brighton.
And this is one of the most important parts now in our diocese and in the whole church, that we have to get together, that we provide the future for our Catholic people here in the diocese and in the whole world.
Organizer Deacon Pedro Rivera Moran, Director of Latino Ministries, says parents should encourage and support vocations. In the family is where many vocations begin, and that's why the parents of Deacon Osvaldo Mendez, who are also the grandparents of Father Yerrick Mendez, shared their family faith story. The panel of speakers also included Father John Reardon from the Office of Vocations, Father Ryan Rooney, Assumptionist Brother Hugo Ballesteros, and Sister Lucero Romero Medina of the Missionaries of Our Lady of Perpetual Help.
My most favorite part about being a sister is everything. I really do love my vocation.
A missionary sister serving in the Diocese of Springfield, Sister Lucero took her first vows in 2019. She says discovering her vocation came from time spent in Eucharistic adoration and from participating in youth retreats. Father Pitor expects there will be more interactive evenings like this to promote a culture of vocations to religious life and to the priesthood. In Westfield, I'm Kathy Harrington.
And finally, starting next Friday, a special novena to St. Joseph will begin on all the social media platforms of the diocese. Bishop Byrne explains why this novena is being held.
So the year of St. Joseph is just about to end, and we thought, what a better way to prepare ourselves for the year of the Eucharist than by having a novena, 9 days of prayer to St. Joseph, asking him for his intercession for the success of this Eucharistic revival here in the Diocese of Springfield in Western Massachusetts.
And remember, you can stay informed on all the latest news in the Catholic Church, locally and beyond, by logging on to iobserve.org. There you can read articles from our Catholic communication staff, as well as watch on-demand episodes of Real to Real. That's iobserve.org. I'm Dan Dumas, and those were your Real to Real news briefs.
Thanks, Dan, and there's still much more ahead on Real to Real. As we continue our focus on vocations, Father Valentine Nwora recounts his recent trip home to his native Nigeria and shares some of his cultural heritage with us. The heroic story of Navy Chaplain Father Thomas Conway, honored posthumously 75 years after his death with the sinking of the USS Indianapolis. Steve Kiltonic will have this Veterans Day story. It's all still ahead on this edition of Real to Real.
The King of Love, my share.
The Chalice of Salvation, your spiritual connection. My brother Terrence Scanlon inviting you to take time out of your busy day and join us Sunday morning. Father Jonathan Reardon will be our Mass celebrant as we begin our month-long All Souls Remembrance. The Chalice of Salvation, Sunday mornings at 10 on 22 News, WWLP.
Our diocese certainly has been blessed over the years by young men from other countries who've come to Western Massachusetts to be ordained as priests. Father Valentine Nwora from the ordination class of 2020 is one example of the blessing these men are to our faith community. After months of COVID travel delays, last spring he was able to finally go home to his native eastern Nigeria to celebrate his ordination with family and friends there. He later sat down with Kathy Harrington to share this reunion and celebration.
A pandemic delayed the blessed day that Father Valentine Nwora gave his life to God. It also kept his family 5,400 miles away in Nigeria.
It was pretty much a family celebration at home, and they watched it online.
But this spring, loaded down with gifts and souvenirs, Father Valentine headed home for the first time in 5 years.
My focus was mainly on the Thanksgiving Mass first, the activities that were going to happen for my coming back, the reception back home for the ordination, and I was a little bit nervous. And then number two, it was getting to be with my family again, getting to meet my friends again, and, getting to feel at home again.
After celebrating the Holy Triduum at the parish of a friend in Umuji, it was time to celebrate his ordination, beginning with a soccer match in his honor. his family against his seminary friends. Father Valentine on St. Matthew's Field for the kickoff. With a Noor family win, Father Valentine carried out a Nigerian tradition. Every newly ordained priest blesses the family home.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven.
On Divine Mercy Sunday at the parish of St. Joseph Catholic Church in Abuema, he celebrated a Holy Mass of Thanksgiving.
The first place I did my Mass was my town, my hometown. That's the village where my father was buried. But that was the first time saying Mass in my native language. And it took a lot of work, I have to confess, because I needed to pay more attention to what I say and how I say it and how I pronounce it
A week later at his residential parish, Father Valentine celebrated a second Mass of Thanksgiving in the city where he was born, the church where he received all his sacraments, Immaculate Heart of Mary in Feji, Onitsha. The brightly colored chasuble Father Valentine wore is his family's color pattern, especially made for him for the Thanksgiving Masses.
We express our joy and our celebration in different ways. Clothing is one of the ways that we love to celebrate things. Of course, you know our people, we are very colorful, and you can see that.
Not for every Mass, just big occasions like weddings, anniversaries, funerals, and ordinations.
To be honest, words wouldn't be enough to express the joy that I felt having to celebrate Mass. And at this time, not just participating at the Mass, but being the celebrant myself in my culture, in the way that my people do it, in the colorful and beautiful way that we celebrate, and in the manner that, you know, we worship God and praise Him through the liturgy of the Mass. So it was really, really amazing for me.
The joyful expression of faith can lead to Masses lasting up to 3 hours. And then there's the offertory.
They will put the boxes in front of the altar, and people will have to come out from the pews, and they will be dancing down to put their offerings in the box and then dance back to their pews. That alone can take about 30-45 minutes, depending on how many people you have in church.
As the Mass of Thanksgiving concluded, a reception in the village followed, then moved to the family compound. This celebration was a time for dancing through the street.
So it's a joyful thing for my family. It's a joyful thing. It's a blessing. It's an honor for my family that God took one of them to become one of His. So my family went all out to do that, to say thank you to God to the best of our ability, and that was part of it. And when you are doing the dancing as the celebrant, they will actually come to spray money on you. Where we gave people food and drinks, and and they danced, and we cut the cake there. And I also gave them souvenirs and gifts, and blessed the people who came to me also, and people brought envelopes. A friend of mine actually did that cake for me. A friend of mine did that cake, and when she sent me the pictures or the video in the first place, I was like, oh my goodness.
Back in the Diocese of Springfield, Father Valentine speaks of this journey home as a treasure.
Everything about the visit, it stays in my heart, and it's always in my heart. I remember all the time, the celebration, the people, getting to spend some time with my family, with my mother, getting to see my siblings again. Everything about that visit.
Father Valentine says this was the path the Lord wanted him to take. In Greenfield, I'm Kathy Harrington for Real to Real.
What an uplifting experience. And while his family and friends were unable to attend his August 2020 ordination in person, they did watch it via streaming video and held a party to celebrate. This Thursday, America celebrates Veterans Day, honoring all men and women who serve, as well as those veterans who gave the ultimate sacrifice. The story of Navy chaplain and Lieutenant Thomas Conway proves that it's never too late to honor someone for their heroism. Steve Kiltonic takes us to Waterbury, Connecticut now and explains Father Conway's long journey to being awarded the Distinguished Navy Cross 75 years after perishing when the ship he was ministering on, the USS Indianapolis, was sunk.
Shortly after midnight on July 30th, 1945, the USS Indianapolis was returning from a classified mission when two torpedoes from a Japanese submarine struck its starboard side. The heavy cruiser, with a crew of 1,196, sank in 12 minutes with 300 men aboard. The other 900 or so survived, but were left floating in the shark-infested Philippine Sea with no lifeboats, food, or water. After 5 nights and 4 days, most died of exposure, drowning, or dehydration. Only 316 survived. It is considered America's worst naval disaster at sea. U.S. Navy Lieutenant Father Thomas Conway of Waterbury, Connecticut, was the chaplain on the ill-fated Indy. His story of heroism and ultimate sacrifice in the days after the sinking would have been lost to history if not for Monsignor John Bevins, who recognized a wrong that needed to be righted. Conway was born in this house on April 5, 1908, the oldest of 3 boys in what was then called the brass and copper capital of the world.
A lot of Irish immigrants came here, and you had a job the next day if you wanted it, in all the factories that were here. And Father Thomas Conway's family would have been one of them.
Conway was baptized and received all the sacraments at the Basilica of the Immaculate Conception. He graduated from St. Mary's Parochial School, La Salette Junior Seminary, and received a degree from Niagara University. Conway enrolled in Our Lady of Angels Seminary, and on May 26, 1934, he was ordained to the priesthood at St. Michael's Cathedral by Springfield Bishop Thomas O'Leary. For 8 years, Conway served as a parish priest in the Diocese of Buffalo. In 1942, he enlisted in the U.S. Navy, commissioned as a chaplain.
It takes a special man to be a Navy chaplain. And in that environment, there's probably a certain loneliness involved with it. And I would think that men, especially at that time, would have been seeking his counsel and his comfort on a daily basis.
In August 1944, Conway was assigned to the USS Indianapolis. In 1945, it was given a top-secret mission to deliver parts of the first atomic bomb to Tinian Island. The Indianapolis was struck while en route to join the American invasion fleet for Japan.
The USS Indianapolis went down just minutes after midnight. So you're in dark water. Father Conway was 37 at the time. So he was almost twice the age of some of these young boys, teenagers. I can only imagine the fear that they would have had. Oil, with slick oil all over the surface too. So you're filthy, you're thirsty. The sharks came shortly after.
According to survivors, Father Conway comforted the dying, administered last rites, and prayed with the men.
And ultimately, he gave hope. He gave hope to survive, to hang on, to say that it's not over.
Conway's actions played a substantial role in saving the lives of 67 of his fellow sailors.
It's said that he just sort of drifted away, that his head sort of bobbed down, and essentially he died of exhaustion by ministering.
Father Conway was the last chaplain to die in combat in World War II. Monsignor Bevins, a former Navy chaplain, knew nothing about Father Conway and his heroic actions until he read an account of the tragedy in the book In Harm's Way.
Here's somebody who gave his life taking care of his people. He certainly deserves some recognition.
Conway was never considered for a medal because the ship's captain, Charles McVeigh, mistakenly thought he went down with the ship that night. In 2014, Monsignor Bevins contacted the Waterbury Veterans Committee and enlisted their help to correct the Navy record and to create a memorial to Conway. Jack Shea and Bob Dorr volunteered to take up the cause. At an Indianapolis reunion, they gathered first-hand testimony from survivors.
We heard directly from the sailors who were in the water, sailors who had received the last rites from Father Conway, sailors who had received absolution from Father Conway, sailors who saw what Father Conway did. And one of the survivors told us, he said, "Gentlemen, heaven needed a new wing because of Father Conway."
Once they had the critical testimony proving Conway died on August 2nd, not July 30th, the vets prepared an extensive 88-page application. Their goal, nominate Conway for the Navy Cross, the second highest award for valor in combat, second only to the Medal of Honor. After a 7-year period and discussions with 3 secretaries of the Navy, their hard work culminated in a moving ceremony held January 8, 2021 at the Basilica. Secretary of the Navy Kenneth Braithwaite apologized on behalf of the Navy.
We are sorry for not recognizing the heroism, the dedication, and the valor of one of our own. His actions will inspire others who, at a dark and challenging moment in their lives, like him, must follow their heart to do their duty.
After 75 years, Monsignor Bevins accepted the Navy Cross on behalf of Conway.
I felt very proud to be a part of that, to finally get the recognition that Father Conway deserved. It was solemn, it was beautiful.
We said, listen, we're going to keep doing this until we get this award because it's deserved, and we're not going to give up on it.
The Veterans Committee also made good on their promise to create a memorial for Father Conway. The cenotaph, or open grave, was created by noted historical sculptor Andrew Chernak. Outside the Basilica is a statue that depicts Father Conway in an open ocean. In one arm he holds dog tags and a rosary, in the other he supports a fellow sailor. In Directory Parlor is a cabinet filled with Father Conway's medals and ribbons. On the ceiling is a stunning mural that features Conway and Father Michael McGivney, the founder of the Knights of Columbus, who was beatified last year. McGivney, also a Waterbury native, was baptized and received sacraments at the Basilica.
Father McGivney, dressed in white, sort of leading or pulling Father Conway out of the South Philippine Sea, and his hand is up in the air pointing him to heaven.
This Veterans Day, Father Thomas Conway remains an inspiration for all of us. He devoted his life to serving God and country and paid the ultimate sacrifice in fulfillment of that mission. For Real to Real, I'm Steve Kiltonick.
Father Sullivan said there is talk of pursuing beatification for Father Conway, the first step toward sainthood because of his heroic virtue. Someone or a group would have to take that cause up, a massive undertaking, but one Father Sullivan believes is worthy of consideration, and we will certainly keep you posted of any developments. And a happy Veterans Day to all vets. Thank you all so much for your service. And as we transition from the end of the year of St. Joseph into the year of the Eucharist, we invite viewers to join us for a novena to St. Joseph, which will be available through various diocesan social media platforms and via diospringfield.org, beginning Friday, November 12th through Saturday, November 20th. Bishop William Byrne and 8 diocesan priests will lead us through this spiritual exercise. We have complete information on the novena at iobserve.org as well as on diospringfield.org. If you would like a printed version of this novena, please call 413-452-0643 and we will mail one out to you right away. That's 413-452-0643 and supplies are limited. And for this week, that's Real to Real. Thank you so much for watching today. And be sure to follow the latest news of the Catholic Church both here in the Diocese of Springfield and around the world on our news and information site, iobserve.org, and also on Facebook at Catholic Communications. I will see you right back here next week for another edition of Real to Real, your window on the world around you. See you then.
Real to Real is a production of the Catholic Communications Corporation, funded in part by the annual Catholic Appeal, and the support of you, our faithful viewers.